Okay, so once you have your picture traced on the window, your next step is going to be coloring in your two different values. So in your picture, you will have the color, that's the paint, and then you will have what's left for your background, like the white of the paper. Okay, and like here's an example of that. So you'll have to decide what's going to be white and what's going to be the color of the paper. Now, when you decide that on your picture, you're going to shade in what you want to be white. So essentially, you're making the inverse of your picture. So think about on your computer, there's those buttons that you can change your picture into a negative. So like if you have a white piece of paper up there, it turns black and the words turn white. Like you can nod your head, like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay, that's what you're doing with this picture. So if you look at the picture I have of myself, which is not completely shaded in yet, but look at my creepy eyes there. Okay, I've shaded in the white part of my eye and left white the colored part of my eye. Okay, you have to think in the reverse of what you want it to be printed as. Okay, so I have that weird kind of thing. So I did that. I did the space in my mouth. I'm doing some of the space in my hair because I've blocked off sections of my hair. Most people either do like their shirt or their background or maybe a pattern in their background. But the ultimate goal really is to be about 50-50, black and white. Okay, so let me show you this example of my niece. Okay, I have her, there's not a whole lot of black here. So when I printed this, there's not a whole lot of white. The color's almost overwhelming, and it takes away from the picture of her because I see so much in the background. So what I should have done is maybe blocked out this part of the bathtub or maybe some thicker parts of the tile so that there was more white showing through. Okay, so maybe a better example would be my dog here. So this one I shaded in normal, like he's normally black, but then when I print it's the opposite. So what I should have done was carved out his his legs and then left this space. But so anything that's black in your picture, anything you shade in is going to be white when you stamp it. The other thing I wanted to point out with the dogs that I have would be texture. Okay, you can't really see it very well on her. Let's see if we can get some of the glare reduction. There we go. So if you can see, I've done these little dash lines that kind of show their fur. That way it gives a little bit of texture. It's not going to come out as a solid color on the print, but you can tell that it's fur, right? See how that's come out? I've had a lot of students do that with their hair, and it works pretty well. So it gives you some of the dimension of the hair without it being all of the hair. Okay, so that's pretty much the gist of it. You need to think about, keeping even black and white, and anything that you want to be, anything that you want to be white, you're shading in. So here's another example. My nephew and his scarf. Okay, he's being silly, but so I've left the designs, white out the background. Okay, it's kind of like your project last year when we did the contrasto paper. You had to think about what was touching what. Okay, I don't want the white of the scarf to touch the white of the scarf. See how I've left a little strip here of color in between these two folds? Okay, I can't just draw a line and let that be it. I had to leave a little bit of strip where that paint could sit. Another thing, I've had a couple students try and cut out their skin tone so that they're white of the paper, and then their clothes are colored. And it can work. It takes a little bit more thinking. So where her nose is, okay, and her eyes, instead of just carving out that outline, you have to leave a space like this. So it takes a little bit more thinking involved. The other issue that's kind of been run into, and then if you want to try that, you just need to be aware of, is when you cut away, you can see this kind of texture here. And sometimes if you don't cut it down enough, that texture will show up in the picture. I think it's kind of neat as a background, but when people did that and that was their skin tone, they look like mummies. So if that's what you're going for, that's great. You could always go back and carve it a little bit lower so that doesn't happen. But just know ahead of time, it is a little bit harder to do.